Okay, I'm down.
We also have very exciting news, which is that we have a special guest joining us, and I'm so excited. And he really needs no introduction, but I will just give you a little bit of one, which is that he is an American politician, a U.S. representative from Ohio from 1997 to 2013, and a presidential candidate for the Democratic nomination in 2004 and 2008. And we are going to bring onto the stage none other than Dennis Kucinich.
Hey, Katie, how you doing?
Thank you so much for joining.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
And this is Matthew Ho. I don't know if you guys know each other, but Matthew is a very brave and hardworking anti-war veteran of both the Iraq War and the Afghanistan wars.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you. An honor to be here with you. I don't know if you heard, I was just talking about the National Intelligence Estimate in
I
2002.
heard it, and I was
One of the few, right?
I actually read it.
Yeah.
Congressman Kucinich, it's such an honor to have you on the show. You have a wonderful piece at SheerPost and also at your Substack. It's called Iraq Plus 20 Lies as Weapons of Mass Destruction. Can you tell us why you wrote this piece and what you pointed out in it?
Yes. When right after 9/11, I was hearing this chatter around Capitol Hill that the administration was considering attacking Iraq. And at first it was hard to believe, even though, as Matthew points out, there were meetings early in the Bush administration's term where Vice President Cheney called together oil companies, and there was already talk about carving up Iraq. But why? What was they didn't even establish a pretext. Well, what happened is that as it became obvious, the administration was trying to make a case that Iraq had something to do with 9/11, and therefore the war would be a payback for 9/11. And what they did from 9/11 on for the next year, 2 years, was to conflate 9/11 with Iraq. And over and over and over, the president did that on the 1 year anniversary of the 9/11 attack in New York City. He just brought them right together. The I I researched everything that was going on. I looked at as a member of Congress. I looked at before the vote. I looked at all available intelligence. I looked at the National Intelligence Estimate, and what I saw was there was no case whatsoever for what the administration was purporting. So I wrote a report, an analysis of the Iraq War resolution for members of Congress. I distributed personally over a period of about 6 days to 250 members of Congress. And what it said was essentially this. Number one, Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, with Al Qaeda's role in 9/11. Iraq didn't have the intention or capability of attacking the United States, and there was no evidence they had any weapons of mass destruction. So I passed it out to members of Congress and make sure you read this before you vote. I was able to help organize 125 Democrats who voted against the war, and we had one independent, Bernie Sanders, vote against it. And I will tell you that that was about 60% of the Democratic caucus. So we had a real viable push among Democrats in opposition to the war. But they had the votes; they went forward anyway.
And why was that?
Well, I think that Republicans were following the lead of the White House, which the political parties generally will support the president of their party, and the media, dutiful spear carriers. They were supernumeraries in this grand pageant towards war. They parroted, chapter and verse, the White House's line that tied Iraq to 9/11. And then from there, they helped Bush build a case to go to war. And, so the media bears responsibility. But when you look at it, President Bush, Vice President Cheney, Secretary Rice, um, Secretary Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, Karl Rove, on and on, they all played a part in pushing this plan forward to go to war against Iraq.
People are talking about the arrest of Donald Trump right now and the indictment of Donald Trump. Do you think that Bush should be indicted for war crimes?
Of course. I mean, this isn't even a close question. And I offered articles of impeachment where, this is where Congress and the United States government handles matters within our own house. We don't have to go to an international tribunal if we can handle this within the U.S. government. Most people aren't aware, by the way, that Congress is a co-equal branch of government. It's the first among equals, Article 1. And Article 1, Section 8 reserves the war power to Congress. But, you know, it had been usurped over and over again, except this case, Bush went to Congress for permission. And once he got it, you know, look out. But I think that as we move through history, here we are 20 years later, what happened in Iraq was a monstrous crime against humanity. You know, Katie and Matthew, I just want to show you, this is all weathered. But I used to carry this in my wallet. Right now it's kind of falling apart, but I kept track of the number of speeches that I gave on the floor of the House against the war in Iraq. There was 341 through 6 Congresses, and 155 against going to war against Iran. I was consumed by this because I understood this was a monumental injustice to the people of Iraq. You know, we've created over 5 million orphans, over 1 million people killed, whose lives were shortened as a result of this war. Incalculable amounts of damage to Iraq's property, rending the social structure of the country. I mean, and it was all based on lies. And I knew this then, and I certainly know it now. And those who were responsible must be held accountable. I put dozens of dozens of articles of impeachment against George Bush, presented them to Congress in July of 2008, articles against Cheney. Chapter and verse, we nailed it. I mean, I presented an indictment. That's what the articles of impeachment are. They're an indictment. And the Democratic leadership, after I presented it, read 4.5 hours on the floor of the House. They had it referred to committee. So I think that we have to have a reckoning in this country about what happened in Iraq.